Welcome to the Madison Miller Podcast. Today's Tuesday, August 1st, 2023. We've made it to August. Today's show will be MLB from yesterday. Look ahead to today. Same with the soccer for FIFA and other soccer. WNBA, a bet for the portfolio. MLB trade deadline day, news and notes, and best bet. We're going to start with baseball. We will go over the results from yesterday and look ahead to today's games. Phillies over the Marlins 4-2. Nationals over the Brewers 5-3. Rays over the Yankees 5-1. O's over the Blue Jays 4-2. Angels over the Braves 4-1. Reds over the Cubs 6-5. Astros over the Guardians 7-3. Rockies over the Padres 4-3-10 on a walk-off sac fly by Ryan McMahon. Mariners over the Red Sox 6-2. And the D-backs over the Giants 4-3-11. All right. Tonight's game, 6:40 of the Phillies and the Marlins. Ranger Suarez and Alcantara. One team, I think, has some work to do today, and the other team, I think, has already done a nice job improving their team. And that team that's, I feel like, improved is the Marlins. And the Phillies are the team that I think has some work to do. Marlins minus 126, Phillies plus 108, over under 7.5, overs minus 115, unders minus 105. Phillies plus 1.5 is minus 96. Marlins minus 1.5 is plus 162. Full game over, that's high. Or, sorry, that's low as a total. 7 o'clock, TBS. Rays, Yankees from the stadium. Zach Eflin, Carlos Rodon. One team has made a big addition we'll get into, and the other team looks like it's going in the other direction for the trade deadline. It's a pick-em, minus 180 over under 8, overs minus 115, unders minus 105. Rays minus 1.5 is plus 146. Yankees plus 1.5 is minus 176. I'm going Rays money line minus 108. The Yankees could be a worse team by the time the first pitch is thrown because I think there's a chance they sell. Brewers Nationals. Freddie Peralta, Josiah Gray. Brewers minus 156. Nationals plus 132. Over under 8.5. Overs minus 115. Unders minus 105. Milwaukee minus 1.5 is plus 105. Nats plus 1.5 is minus 126. This is a hard one here. Josiah Gray's been pretty decent for the Nationals at times this year. So I'm going to go under 4.5 runs for the Brewers at minus 104. Tigers, Pirates. Matt Manning and Johan Oviedo. Pirates minus 122. Tigers plus 104 over under 9. Overs minus 105. Unders minus 115. Tigers plus 1.5 is minus 188. Pirates minus 1.5 is plus 155. Neither of these guys have been lighting the world on fire. But I like over 4.5 Tiger runs at plus 112 because I don't think Johan Oviedo is that good. O's Jays. Kyle Bradish and Hyun-Jin Ryu making his season debut. How about that? So that's like a trade deadline addition for Toronto. The Jays are favored minus 112. O's are minus 104 over under 8.5. Overs minus 112. Unders minus 108. O's minus 1.5 is plus 176. Jays plus 1.5 is minus 15. So the Orioles are favored on the run line, and the Blue Jays are favored on the money line. We don't know how Ryu is going to look. So I suggest taking the O's on the money line at minus 104. An O's Rays money line parlay would be kind of fun. Angels Braves at 7:20. Patrick Sandoval and Spencer Strider. Braves minus 250. Angels plus 205 over under 9. Overs minus 114. Unders minus 106. Angels plus 1.5 is minus 102. Braves minus 1.5 is minus 118. Full game under, that's high. Twins Cardinals at 7:45. Pablo Lopez and Miles Mikolas. Who knows? Mikolas might not get the start today. Twins minus 118. Cards even money over under 8.5. Overs even money. Unders minus 122. Twins minus 1.5 is plus 140. Cards plus 1.5 is minus 170. I'm going Twins straight up minus 118. Banking on like what if the Cards trade Carlson and maybe one of their big bats. 8 o'clock, White Sox Rangers. Jesse Schultens and Andrew Heaney. Rangers minus 205, White Sox plus 172, over under 9, overs minus 120, unders minus 102. White Sox plus 1.5 is minus 125, Rangers minus 1.5 is plus 104. Full game under. Reds, Cubs, Ben Lively, Justin Steele. Cubs minus 168, Reds plus 142 over under 8.5, overs minus 104, unders minus 118. Reds plus 1.5 is minus 156, Cubs minus 1.5 is plus 130. So the Cubs are pretty big favorites here. And Lively hasn't been bad. I like full game under for that one as well. Guardians, Astros, Gavin Williams and Framber Valdez. Astros minus 190, Guardians plus 160 over under 8, overs minus 114, unders minus 106. Guardians plus 1.5 is minus 128. Astros minus 1.5 is plus 106. I like full game under. A lot of unders today. Mets, Royals, Jose Quintana, Zach Greinke. Mets minus 158, Royals plus 134 over under 9.5, minus 110 each way. Mets minus 1.5 is plus 104, Royals plus 1.5 is minus 126. I'm going with the Royals straight up, plus 134. The Mets are just a mess. Padres, Rockies at 8:30. TBD, Peter Lambert. Lines are not up yet, but if the total's anything higher than 10.5, unders the play. Not Rockies. Red Sox, Mariners. Brian Balow and Bryce Miller. So the battle of two good young pitchers beginning with a B. Mariners minus 112. Red Sox minus 104 over under 8. Overs minus 105. Unders minus 115. Boston minus 1.5 is plus 158. Seattle plus 1.5 is minus 94. So Red Sox favored on the run line. Mariners favored on the money line. That's a hard one. I like the under. Full game. D-backs, Giants at 9:45. Zach Gallen, Alex Cobb. Pick'em minus 180 each way. Over under 7.5. Minus 110 each way. D-backs minus 1.5 is plus 152. Giants plus 1.5 is minus 184. So Pick'em on the money line. D-backs favored on the run line. This is a really, really difficult one because both these guys have been really good all year. So I'm going to go under 3.5 Giant runs at minus 111. All right, now move on to soccer. We'll start with FIFA. We'll go over the results from the overnight and look ahead to tonight and tomorrow. Portugal and U.S. 0-0 draw. So U.S. advances in spite of drawing. They've been very dismal and disappointing and underwhelming in this tournament so far. It's going to be hard for them to win it all. I don't think they are at this point. They've been very underwhelming. Netherlands kills Vietnam 7-0. England kills China 6-1. Denmark over Haiti 2-0. All right, 3 o'clock on Fox. And referring to AM, Argentina, Sweden. Sweden's won both of their games. Argentina drew and lost. This is group let's see. This is Group G. And Argentina's been disappointing in the group as they lost to Argentina, or they lost to Italy and drew with South Africa. Let me just pull up the odds real quick. Sweden's minus 185, Argentina plus 470, draws 3-1. I'm going to go with Sweden to win. Put the pick for the show over 2 goals minus 110. Fox Sports 1 at 3 a.m. South Africa, Italy. So this is also Group G. South Africa drew against Argentina but lost to Italy. Italy lost to Sweden, beat Argentina. So that's that. Italy minus 160, South Africa plus 410, draw plus 290. Pick for here, under 2.5 goals at even money. 6 a.m. on Fox, Panama, France. This is Group F. So Panama's lost both of their games to Brazil and Jamaica. And France beat Brazil and drew against Jamaica. France is minus 4,000. Panama 75-1. The draw's 22-1. For this one, I'm going to go over 4.5 goals at plus 125. And now Fox Sports 1, Jamaica, Brazil. So Jamaica beat Panama, drew against France. Brazil lost to France and then beat Panama. So this is a big spot for my sleeper Brazil to win the whole thing. Brazil minus 550. Jamaica's 12-1. The draw's plus 550. For this one, I like under 2.5 goals at plus 125. Okay, now we'll do other soccer. We will start with Leagues Cup, which I don't believe there's any Leagues Cup today, but I just want to touch on Leagues Cup. From yesterday. Columbus over America 4-1. Puebla, Chicago 1-1 draw. Sporting KC over Guadalajara 1-0. And Toluca over to Colorado Rapids 4-1. So we do not have Leagues Cup today. Leagues Cup resumes on Wednesday with the next round. All right, so today we have some friendlies. So Inter Milan defeated PSG 2-1 and 11 o'clock tonight on ESPN. You have Milan and Barcelona. This one might actually be on here in terms of a odds because it's a big one. Yes, it is. Barcelona's minus 110. AC Milan's plus 230. Draw plus 280. I like Barcelona at minus 110. I think that is pretty good value. All right, so tomorrow morning we have a couple. 7:30 Liverpool and Bayern and 8:55 Augsburg Ajax. All right, Champions League qualifying today. We have a couple. 1:30 you have Panathinaikos and Dnipro 1. Panathinaikos leads 3-1 on aggregate. They're minus 280. Dnipro 6-1. The draw's plus 350. I'm gonna go under 2.5 goals at minus 108. 2 o'clock Bait and Aris Limassol. Aris Limassol leads 6-2 on aggregate, which is crazy. And their favorite minus 115. Bates plus 270. Draws plus 250. I'm gonna go with Aris at minus 115. 2 o'clock also Olimpija and Ludogorets tied on aggregate. Ludogorets is plus 130. Olimpija is plus 195. The draw's plus 210. I like Olimpogia as an underdog at home at plus 195. And then 2:30, you have South Bratislava and Zerzinski. Bratislava leads 1-0 on aggregate. They're minus 125. Zerzinski's plus 330. Draws plus 230. For this one, the pick is over 2.5 goals at plus 120. We also have Conference League qualifying too. I'm not going to make picks for these, though. 11 o'clock, Valmeria and Trey Penne. 1:30, Balzan FC and Naaman Gordon. Valmeria leads 3-0 in aggregate, and Naaman leads 2-0 in aggregate. Zimbru, Chisianu, and Fenerbahce. Fenerbahce leads 5-0 on aggregate. That's at 1:30. Also, 2 o'clock, Swift, Heronsbage, and the New States. They're tied on aggregate, 2:45. Partiani, Tirana, and Escalades. Tirana leads 1-0 in aggregate. And at 3 o'clock, Buduknost, Podrica, and Struga. Struga leads 1-0 on aggregate. All right, WNBA. We'll go over the slate for tonight. 4 games. 7 o'clock, ESPN, Lynx Sun. Pretty good game. Collier might be back for the Sun. So that's good news for them. They're favored by 11.5, totals 162.5. That's why the line is really high here. And not to mention the Lynx are only 500. I like the over. That's a high a low number. ESPN 3, Mercury Fever. The Fever giving 6.5, totals 159.5. Whoo! You never would have thought the Indiana Fever would be that big of a favor over to Mercury this season. I like the over. 10 o'clock on NBA TV of the Liberty and the Sparks. The Liberty are giving 8.5, totals 166.5. I'm taking the Sparks. I just been fading the Liberty every time I can on this show. And then the Dream and the Aces. The Aces are giving 13.5, totals 178.5. And the same thing, fade the Aces when you can. I'm taking the Dream, getting 13.5 points. All right, portfolio. This is going to be an interesting portfolio because today's MLB trade deadline day, and you could potentially bank on a team making a trade between now and the 6 o'clock p.m. trade deadline to say, like, hey, give me this team as a future. I'm looking at the World Series odds right now. There's a team out there that's 17-1 that can better themselves today, and a team that's 25-1 that can better themselves today. These are 2 teams that I have my eyes on that need to make moves. One of them's in first place, and the other is in position for a wild card. That's out of their division race because their division leader is the unquestionable best team in baseball. So they have to settle for a wild card for a second consecutive year. And as it stands right now, they are in the second wild card. So this is a hard call whether to go with the 17-1 or the 25-1. You guys are telling me, Madison, take the 25-1. It's better value. And they have a GM that is notorious for making big moves. He hasn't made one yet. And that, my friends, is Mr. Dave Dombrowski and the Philadelphia Phillies. They're 25-1 to win the World Series. And the other team I'm eyeing is in the Justin Verlander sweepstakes. And they really have a good chance to win its division. And they've been calling up guys all the time and making immediate impacts. And they're starting to give me Astros Cubs from last decade vibes. And that is the Baltimore Orioles, and that's where I'm going to go. I'm going to lay a half unit on the Baltimore Orioles at 17-1. They'll win the pennant and win the World Series. So to win the World Series, 17-1, the Baltimore Orioles. It might be at a different number come tomorrow. Although Philadelphia might be at a different number come tomorrow. So I love the Orioles. They're so much fun. So 17-1's the same number I got them to win the American League East. back in April. So that's the irony about that. And I think 17-1 is valuable. Because what if they go out and get Verlander? What if they get the Mariner guy that's available? George Kirby. What if they get some other guy I'm not even thinking of that could be available for the right price? So I love that. 17-1, the Baltimore Orioles. I'm all in. They're so fun to watch. So there you have it, the big portfolio. The Baltimore Orioles is 17-1 to win the World Series on trade deadline day. And trade deadline day is here. We'll talk about it now. And let's start those Baltimore Orioles. So they want Justin Verlander. Andy Martino of SNY reports that the teams are definitely deep in the weeds of talks, but both have other options they're working on. JV willingness to go to Baltimore is unknown, but don't forget, in 2017, he wanted to go to the Dodgers or the Cubs, but he accepted the trade to Houston, and the rest of his history. And he won 2 rings with the Astros, so anything is possible. If he gets traded, I kind of think he goes back to the Astros. But I'm rooting for him to go to Baltimore. Especially after that nice little wager I made. So, let's see what happens with the O's and Verlander. So, it's fascinating. They're my most interesting team, perhaps in the whole league. Because if they get a number 1 guy before the deadline today, they should be the favorites to come out of the American League. But that's dependent on Verlander, obviously, and what Houston does. All right, the Rays made a trade as they acquire Aaron Savali from the Kansas City Royals. I read something that said Kansas City. The Cleveland Guardians for first base prospect Kyle Manzardo. That's number 37 on MLB.com. These prices are so high for the buyers to get pieces. I think the sellers have been beating the buyers in the trade deadline so far. If you say to me, have the sellers done better or the buyers have done better? Honestly, I think the sellers have done better. Manzardo is a wonderful get for the Guardians, and I think he can have an impact on that team and can be their first baseman of the future. I think that is a wonderful trade for the Guardians. I think it's a good trade for Tampa, too. I think Savali in Tampa will get better. So I think it's a great trade for both teams. And I think that the Guardians may have done a little bit better. That's crazy. The Toronto Blue Jays make the trade for Jordan Hicks. There's talks about a Teoscar Hernandez reunion, which would be interesting because the Mariners look like they're selling. So let's see about that. The Red Sox are listening on Verdugo. I think they're trying to get under the luxury tax and trying to get young pitching in there. Maybe the Red Sox don't think they're any good. Them and the Yankees, I think, are in similar spots from like an organizational standpoint, signing their best players to big deals and other veterans on the team, hamstringing them, and other young players that they try to develop not working out. I feel like these two teams are very similar, except the Yankees are better by far in the starting pitching market. Or not starting pitching market, but starting pitching period than the Red Sox. Because the Red Sox don't have Chris Sale right now. And the Yankees have Cole and Rodon locked up long term. But the rest of the rotation, I think, it's fair to say that there's questions. And the Yankees look like they're going to be sellers. They should be sellers. They're 4 back in the loss column of the wild card. And what did I just mention? The sellers are kicking the buyers' ass this year at the trade deadline. So the Yankees should sell for those 2 reasons alone. And, did I mention that there's no real options for them that can make an immediate impact on their team to get themselves back into the playoff hunt? Oh, yeah, that too. So they should be sellers. Aaron Boone had the most ridiculous quote I've ever seen against the Orioles. And by the way, the Yankees are in partial sell mode as they're willing to hear offers for Luis Severino, Harrison Bader, and other walk-year players. I think Gleyber Torres has to be mentioned in there. I think the most likely Yankee player traded today will be Gleyber Torres. And I think that somebody could overpay for him. Because look at the other packages that not great players and pitchers got. See, looking at you, Lucas Giolito. But Aaron Boone, after the 18 strikeout game, outside of the strikeouts, I thought at-bats were building off of last night, obviously Saturday night. What the fuck, I'm saying to myself. Like, that is the most ridiculous quote I've ever seen. And Aaron Boone, I don't think will be here next year. And if you ask me, I don't think Brian Cashman's here next year. So that's a bold prediction for 2024, considering that the Yankees are overdue to do a big change in their front office and at the managerial position. Aaron Boone is the worst coach-manager arguably in New York sports right now. Although you can tell me Robert Saleh, because he's so unproven and he's had a couple of losing seasons and a team that fell apart at the end of last year. You could argue Robert Saleh, and if the Jets underachieve this year, then obviously the answer is Saleh. And another thing about Aaron Boone. I'm going to count down the other New York sports coaches and managers that have been fired since he's been here. Mets. Mickey Callaway. I forget the gentleman's names. Miguel Rojas. That's 2 for the Mets. The football giants. Ben McAdoo. Yes, Ben McAdoo was here when Aaron Boone was hired. But they overlapped for a week? Because Aaron Boone got hired in the end of November and McAdoo got fired in December. Pat Shurmur, Joe Judge. So that's 3 right there for the football giants. That's just how pitiful that franchise was before Dayball and Shane showed up. Todd Bowles. Adam Gase. So that's 2 for the Jets. The Knicks. Oh my God, this is a laundry list here. I thought the Giants was a laundry list. Let's see for the Knicks. Jeff Hornacek, David Fizdale. Oh, so only 2. I thought there was 3. Oh, and Mike Miller, the intern coach. Let's count intern coaches too. So that's 10. So the intern coach didn't last. The Brooklyn Nets, Lionel Hollins, Kenny Atkinson, Steve Nash. And then Jacques Vaughn kept his job because he did a great job after the KD Kyrie deals. Rangers, Alain Vigneault, David Quinn, Gerard Gallant. The Rangers have fired 3 coaches since the Yankees have hired Aaron Boone. The Devils, John Hines, and there's another one for the Devils. Let's see. And the intern, Elaine Nassourdine. So that is up there as well. And then the Islanders, before Trotz there, so Let's see. With the Isles. So, Jack Capuano, Doug Waite, and Barry Trotz. But I need to look at the date when Jack Capuano got fired. Oh, he got fired in January of 17, so he doesn't count. So Doug Waite, Barry Trotz. So let's count those again. Callaway, Rojas, the three Giant guys, Bulls and Gates from the Jets, Hornacek, Fizdale, Mike Miller, Lionel Hollins, Kenny Atkinson, Steve Nash from Brooklyn Nets. The Rangers had the three, so that's 16. The Devils had two before Lindy Ruff showed up, and the Islanders had two. So there's been 20 coaches that have been fired in New York sports since Aaron Boone was given this Yankee job for a home run he hit back in 2003. If he doesn't hit that home run, he's not the Yankee manager, period, end of story. So 20 guys have come in and out since Boone's been hired, and there's a couple of them that I think were better than Boone, notably Gerard Gallant, who was just fired from the Rangers this year. I mean, I actually applauded that move when it happened, but he still was a better coach than Aaron Boone is. And Tom Thibodeau almost got fired, so that would have been 21. And Buck Showalter could have been fired this year. That could have been 22. That's crazy. And Saleh could have easily been fired last year, so that could have been 23. So that is just an insane stat that I wanted to toss out on the podcast about New York sports right now, and how there's been 20 coaches that have been fired since Aaron Boone's been hired among the four professional sports. So we'll see what the Yanks do today. I think they'll sell, and they should sell. And sellers are kicking the buyers' asses this year in terms of prices. All right, the AL Central, the Guardians obviously made that deal with the Rays, and they made the deal with the Dodgers. And I love the deal they made with the Rays. And I think that could ignite them a little bit. And hopefully he's called up so he can see what he's made of. The Twins, I think, need some pitching, especially relief help. I know they did the swap with the Marlins, but I think they need more than that. We'll see about the Royals. They're not going to trade Greinke, I don't think. And then you have the Tigers. Michael Lorenzen's probably going to go. That could be an Oriole. So we'll see where he goes. And then the White Sox, obviously everybody's on the market. They traded Giolito. They traded Lance Lynn. They traded Kendall Graveman, which I think they did a good job. And I think the White Sox have done the best job so far of anybody. They got the Angels overpaid for Lucas Giolito, who is not that great. All right, Astros, the Verlander rumors are on. If Verlander's dealt, I think he goes there. The Dodgers are in on him, but the owner is Jim Crane can seal the deal. The Rangers obviously went for it and added to their rotation. I think they need a bat, and I think another reliever could be useful as well. The Mariners look like they're both buying and selling. They had a really good July, which had them believe that they're still in their division race. So I made a mistake. The Yankees are actually 3 back in the loss column. I thought they were 4 back in the loss column. They're 3 back in the loss column. That's my mistake. So, I still think they should sell, even though I understand if they buy too. And Seattle and the Yankees are kind of similar, that they might be both buying and selling. And I think Seattle should probably sell because they're like out of it. And the Yankees are only 3 back in the loss column. MLB Network's on my TV right now. Back to the Yanks for a second. Luis Severino, Harrison Bader, IKF, and Wandy Peralta and Walker. So those are the 4 guys I think are available. They can get something for IKF. He's actually been pretty good this season. So keep an eye on that one. Back to the AL West. The Angels went for it in a big way. Giolito, Lopez, Cron, and Grichuk. They're really trying to go for it for Ohtani, so I respect the Angels' decision to do so. And they are still kind of hanging around. I see why they're doing it, but I think they're the team that's most likely going to regret buying, especially if Shohei leaves. And the A's, they're hot garbage. We don't even know who they're going to sell. Brent Rooker? All right, the NL East. I almost pulled the trigger with the Phillies at 25-1 to win the World Series. I'm begging on them to make a big move. But the Orioles were more tempting because of the Verlander rumors. So I went big on Baltimore again. I think the Phils need some relief help. Another bat would be useful. Marlins. I think they need offense. They did a good job improving with Robertson. But I think that they should really get a bat to help that team. Mets are selling. They have a for sale sign in front of everybody other than Peter Alonso. We'll see who else goes today. Could be Verlander. Canna went yesterday to the Brewers. They got a pitcher back, Christian Jarvis, who I think was in their top 30 for Milwaukee. So Canna is a decent kind of bat for Milwaukee. They needed like a professional there, to put it kindly. Tommy Pham could go too. We'll see what happens with him. The Nationals, they made a big one yesterday, trading away Jeimer Candelario to the Chicago Cubs. Who had the Cubs getting Candelario? I don't think anybody had them getting Candelario. And then going back to the Nats, DJ Hurts and Kevin Made. So that's a really good return for the Nats. And good on the Cubs for recognizing that they have something going and just saying, hey, let's go for it. So, good on the Cubs. So, Hers is now the 17th prospect in the Nat system, and it made 16. So, that's a pretty good price for Candelario, and I think Candelario will help the Cubs. And hopefully that's a team that goes on a surprising run a little bit. And them to win the NL Central was a thought. Maybe next week. So remember that I said Cubs win the NL Central as a future I thought about, but didn't pull the trigger on. So good on the Cubs for pulling that trade off. We talked about the Brewers getting Mark Canha for Justin Jarvis. The Cardinals are selling. Dylan Carlson's going to be on the move. Maybe Mikolas, even though he's scheduled to start today. They already dealt Montgomery. Jack Flaherty, we'll see. And then obviously they already dealt Jordan Hicks. The Reds. John Morosi says they're looking at starting pitching. They haven't really made significant noise in the trade market yet. So we'll see what they do. Although they do anticipate Nick Lodolo and Hunter Green back this year, which is good. And then the Pirates, will they trade David Bednar? Will Brian Reynolds be on the move? Why isn't nobody talking about Brian Reynolds on MLB Network or any of the media platforms? That guy was in trade rumors all year. I know he signed an extension, but that doesn't take him out of conversation for a trade. All right, the NL West, the Diamondbacks made a big trade acquiring Paul Sewald from the Mariners for infielder Josh Rojas, outfielder Dominic Canzone, minor league infield Ryan Bliss. So that's a nice haul for Seattle for their closer. So, obviously, Rojas was probably on their team. Canzone is now number 13 in Seattle's system. And Ryan Bliss is 14. So these prices that the buyers are giving up are a lot. And I always said you have to give up a lot to get something good. So I think that's a really good trade for Arizona and Seattle too. And Sewell this year, ERA 2.93, so that's worth the haul. He's been really, really good this season. The Giants acquire A.J. Pollock and Mark Mathias from the Mariners, so the Mariners are continuing to sell. Pollock, I don't like that for San Francisco. He's been terrible this year, and I don't think he's been a good MLB player for a couple of years now. And then Padres likely keeping Josh Hader due to team's high asking price. And the Padres can make a run. They could. So I wouldn't put it past them to keep everybody or make a buyer's move. So we'll see what happens with the trades and whatnot. To me, Verlander Orioles is the big one. If Scherzer Rangers can happen, let's see if O's Verlander can happen too. And we'll move on to the notes now. And we'll start with Verlander. As his vesting option for 2025 is seen as a roadblock that has halted trade talks with multiple teams. That makes sense. Mike Yastrzemski to the 10-day injured list with a hamstring strain. And righty John Brebbia transferred to the 60-day IL. So that makes sense why they got Pollock as like a backup because Yastrzemski's hurt. And that's not good for the Giants at all. All right, so NFL news. Super Bowl telecast on Nickelodeon for the first time ever. Alternate broadcast of a Super Bowl will happen this year, so that is awesome. Cowboys running back Ronald Jones II suspended the first 2 games after violating the NFL's PED policy. It's just their backup running back, or maybe he'll end up their third string if they get Zeke back. Jalen Hurts' lock screen is a constant reminder of the Super Bowl loss. That I don't know if I would make that your screen lock. Aaron Rodgers on Sean Payton. He talks about the current situation after he responded to Sean Payton's comments on Hackett. That's going to be an ongoing thing. And then also from the Jets, they're unsure that Dalvin wanted to sign as they didn't sense an immediate rush from Cook's camp to finalize a contract after Sunday's visit. Lions tight end Shane Zylstra expected to miss 6 months after suffering serious and significant knee injury. That's not great for Zylstra, and that is a loss for the Lions offense. Not a significant loss because it's not like Amon-Ra St. Brown or obviously Jared Goff or one of the running backs. So that's just awful news for the Lions who had a nice little impact after the team traded away T.J. Hawkinson to Minnesota last year. Tim Patrick out for the season with a complete tear of his Achilles. Oh my God, I feel so bad for Tim Patrick. This guy hurt back-to-back years, has shown flashes in the past. It's just unfortunate for Denver. So really sad news for the Broncos there. Some college stuff. Notre Dame channels Jerry Maguire while revealing new green alternate uniforms, which was a fun video. Oregon coach Dan Lanning doesn't hold back when asked about Colorado's move to the Big 12. Oregon lands 4-star quarterback and son of former NFL first-rounder Akili Smith Jr. So that's an interesting get. And then college basketball news. 5-star Carter Knox of class of 2024 will receive a scholarship that allows him to maintain his college eligibility as he will join Overtime Elite. A lot of these young prospects in basketball are going to be on Overtime Elite in some of these G League teams going forward. And that's not great for college basketball. The Minnesota Wild re-signed Philip Gustafson, 3 years, $3.75 million a year for the goaltender. So that is a good lockup for Minnesota. And in basketball news, the Pelicans have explored trading for Jared Allen and Isaiah Stewart. They're looking for center upgrades. I think Jared Allen would be a nice upgrade for them. And one more basketball news I wanted to get to. ESPN laid off Mark Jackson, which I can't say I'm completely stunned. And they're doing a whole new makeover for its A-team. Going with Mike Breen now. They hired Doc Rivers, who Mike has a relationship with from his past. Doc was a former Knick, and he was in the media for a little bit before he went and coached the Celtics, and I'm sure they've broadcasted together in the past. And Doris Burke, who I think has earned this promotion. I think that the second Jeff Van Gundy got fired, I said to myself, Doris Burke's getting promoted. That was my first instinct. I didn't think about Doc Rivers at first. But once I heard somebody mention Doc Rivers, I said, okay, that makes a lot of sense. But I like this booth with Mike Breen, Doris Burke, and Doc. Obviously, Doris was on the A-team with Van Gundy and Jackson and Breen for a little bit. She was the sideline reporter. That's where she got her feet kicked in with the A-team. So she's been on the A-team before, but as a sideline reporter. Then she became an analyst for the B-team. She was with Mark Jones. Hubie Brown stopped traveling a lot, so she was on the B team with Mark Jones, and now she's going to be on the A team with Mike Breen and Doc Rivers. And obviously Doris got her start as a Knicks sideline reporter, so it still kind of feels like a Knicks booth in a way with Doris and Mike there, but Doc has some Knicks ties as well, and obviously Mark had Knicks ties as he was a player for the Knicks back in the day, too. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Mark was traded for Doc, which is kind of ironic. He was traded for Doc when they played for the Knicks. So, interesting with the new booth. I'm really happy for Doris, and I'm happy for Doc, too. And Mike, him, Mark, and Jeff, I think were one of the best three-man booths we've ever had in the history of sports. And for unknown reasons, both of those guys were relieved of their duties. I think Jeff will end up on TNT. And Mark will move on somewhere. We'll see where he goes. So Jeff to TNT would be very interesting. I hope they hire Jeff. Maybe Mark goes to TNT too. And I think that the idea with bringing Mark and Jeff to TNT and putting them with Iron Eagle and make that the A-team would be a lot of fun, which I've talked about on the podcast before. All right, last but not least, my best bet of the day brought to you by FanDuel. I'm going with another low total in Major League Baseball. Yesterday's best bet was a winner with the Red Sox Mariner game going over. I think that this particular game has a low total. It went up to minus 122. But I still really like it anyway. So I'm going to lay a fifth of a unit on over 7.5 between the Phillies and the Marlins for my best bet of the day. All right, that's it for the show. I'll be back tomorrow for the regular show, but tonight we'll do a trade deadline recap show, winners and losers. We'll see if the Yankees get any criticism, the Mets can get any criticism, the Phillies might get some criticism, the Orioles could very well get some criticism, and maybe those teams and some other teams could get some praise. We shall see. Maybe there's somebody unexpected that I'm going to criticize or praise anyway. Hope you guys have a great day, everyone.